Congratulations. If you're watching this video, it most likely means you've been approved to rent one of our properties. Thank you for using Freedom House Property Management to rent your property from. My name is Scott Smith, and I'm a property manager here at Freedom House Property Management. You should have already been sent a sample copy of the lease. It is very important that you review the lease before you sign the lease. We will require that you verify that you have reviewed the lease and you have watched this video before signing the lease. While reviewing your leases, it would be smart to have a pen and paper next to you and write down any questions you might have. Make sure to get the answers to these questions before you sign the lease. The reason it benefits you to review the lease and watch this video before you sign the lease are as follows. It may be difficult to get all parties involved together at the same time to do a lease signing, so this allows you to do this at your leisure. Also, number two, those people with children find it easier to get together to watch a video after the children have gone to bed. This way, you know, this video and the PDF's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That makes it easier for parents to get this done. Reading the lease and watching the video prior to signing the lease will make sure that every tenant gets the same information during their leasing process. And once you review the video and review the lease, you'll feel much more at ease when signing the lease. In this video, I'll be reviewing portions of the lease that I feel are important to emphasize. This means it's still important that you review the lease on your own and, you know, get any questions you might have answered. Also, 90+% of our tenants are great tenants. However, there's a small portion that are not so great and usually end up with an animal that's not approved or an extra person that's not approved, a vehicle, or doing some kind of illegal activity. And this lease addresses all those issues, so I need to cover the whole gamut here. Anyway, let's go ahead and dive into the lease. Okay, here's the first page of the lease. And obviously up here, we're going to have the owner, the property's name, the tenant's name, the date of the lease signing. Then the number 3 is the term of the lease, which is the beginning and ending date of the lease. Total rent you'll pay during the term of the lease, which is usually 1 year. Number 4 talks about the monthly rent that's going to be paid. In this example, it's $2,500 a month. Then we get to the money section down here, and this should be something that you're familiar with by the time you get to the lease signing, so that you should be able to know how much money you need to come in with to, you know, get the lease started. So make sure you review your copy before you come in and ask any questions you might have. Number 7, the late fees. In the state of Nevada, they require that we charge 5% of the monthly rent for late fees, or no more than 5%. And the late fees begin on the 6th day. So rent is due on the 1st. You get late fees on the 6th. If a payment gets returned, like a check bounces or an electronic payment gets returned, there's a $75 fee for that. Then after that, if that should happen, a tenant agrees to pay all remaining payments for the lease by certified funds, money order, certified check, something like that. You lose your privileges to be able to pay with a personal check or pay online. Most people pay online these days. Additional rent C. So payments will be applied to charges in the order accumulated. So if you have late charges, eviction fees, utilities, those will be paid first and rent will be paid last. So please be aware of that. Number 8 talks about your security deposits. So tenants shall not apply the security deposit to or in lieu of rent. So if you say, hey, I have $200 light on rent this month, can you just use my securities? The answer will be no. And the security deposits within 30 days of surrendering premises, we have to give you your deposits back within 30 days or a reason why not. Let's go to the next page, page 3. Eviction costs. So on the 6th, not only will you get your late fees, you will have a $100 charge added to your ledger because we're going to be taking any 7-day pay or quit to the sheriff's department to serve. Number 12, you will receive the following. In this example, you get 1 door key and 1 garage fob. So make sure you check that. Make sure we give you what we say we're going to give you. Number 13, conveyances and uses. Tenant shall not sublet or transfer tenant's interest nor any part of thereof without prior consent of the landlord. The premises shall be used and occupied by tenant exclusively as a private single-family residence. Neither the premises nor any part of the premises or yard shall be used at any time during the term of the lease for any purpose of carrying on any business, profession, or trade of any kind, or for any purpose other than a private single-family residence. This usually rears its head sometime when people might want to use the house as a daycare center. That is not okay according to the lease and could be cause for an eviction. Tenant understands and acknowledges that they are not permitted to access the attic, crawl space, roof, or under the home, or any other area of the property that is not considered living space. Tenant shall not commit waste, cause excessive noise, create a nuisance, or disturb others. So the rule of thumb here at Freedom House Property Management, if a tenant calls in and says that another tenant's being too loud, then usually they're correct. So if another tenant can hear your music or whatnot, then you are being too loud and you need to tone it down. Number 14 talks about the occupants in this example. There's 2 occupants in this premises, tenant Mark and tenant Mary. And if we should find, tenant John show up, then that'll be grounds for an eviction. So don't let that happen. And guests on your property, if they're there more than 14 days, they're no longer a guest. And there's legal reasons for this, so this needs to be adhered to. Utilities. So typically, tenant is responsible for all utilities and services on the premises. And in this example, you can see T is for tenant, and tenant's responsible for all these utilities, except for this one, association fee. And that's because I don't have any properties right now that tenant's responsible for association fees. The owners always pay the association fee. And every now and then there's a property where an owner might pay for the trash, usually multiple, 12 plexes or something like that. And so make sure that you are aware of that, and that if you have any questions, please ask. Then we'll go to page 4 and line 7 here. It says tenant shall also remove any satellite dishes and restore the premises to its original condition at the termination of this lease. So if you get a service that needs a satellite, we prefer that you use a ground stand so that we don't continue to put holes in the roofs of these properties. But either way, it's your responsibility to remove those satellite dishes and when you leave the property. E down here says tenant shall not default on any obligation to a utility provider for utility services at the premises. You're required to have electricity on, water the whole time you're there, and you need to be paid up to date on those utilities. Pest notice. Tenants are responsible for pests like, insects, rodents, and whatnot. However, if the tenant would like to get a contract with a bug company exterminator for 6 months or more, if you bring in the 6 months worth of invoices, we will reimburse you for the first month, which is usually the expensive month. Pets. So going through the application process, I'm sure you have realized by now that pets we take very seriously. And the reason is pets typically end up being the single cause of most of the repairs when people move out who have pets. So all pets must be approved. And in this example, there's a $500 deposit for the first pet, $250 for the second pet. All pets need to go through pet screening and keep that up to date. Also, if an unapproved pet shows up on the property, there's the $1,000 fine. Now, this includes people who are visiting. So your visitors cannot bring a pet over. You cannot babysit a pet. This way it keeps things cut and dry on, whose pet is what. So do not bring a pet over to your house unless it's approved through us. Number 19, restrictions. Tenants shall not keep or permit to be kept in on or about the premises waterbeds, boats, campers, trailers, mobile homes, recreational or commercial vehicles, or any non-operative vehicles, except as follows. And here we'll list your vehicles that are approved. So all vehicles must be registered, have license plates that are current and up to date. On the next page at the top of page 5, it's going to tell you that tenants shall not conduct or permit any work on vehicles on the premises without express written consent of the landlord. Yeah, we definitely don't want tenants bringing multiple vehicles, parts laying around. We want to keep these properties in good condition. As a property management company, our responsibility is to find the owners, tenants who pay on time and take care of the property. Number 20, alterations. Tenants shall make no alterations to the premises without landlord's written consent, including, things like painting rooms, putting stickers on walls, that kind of stuff. We want to, you can, obviously hang some pictures on the walls, but anything that's going to be permanent needs to be approved. 21, tenants' engagement in activities prohibited by this agreement or tenants' failure to comply with any and all applicable laws shall be considered a default hereunder. Obviously, you don't want to have police visiting your property, and your neighbors are pretty good at letting us know if police show up at a property. So we're only interested in renting to law-abiding citizens. 21A, tenants shall not attempt to apply or deduct any portion of the security deposit from last or any month's rent, or use or apply any such security deposits in any time in lieu of payment of rent, which we've already discussed. The security deposits are for one thing only, and that's for repairs and maintenance issues caused by the tenant after they move out. Number 22, enforcement. Acceptance of rent by landlord after any default shall not be construed to waive any right of landlord or affect any notice of termination or eviction. So, if you pay partial rent, and you have an eviction, a 7-day notice, that's not going away. Let's see, on page 23, notice of intent to vacate. So at the end of this lease, the lease automatically rolls over to a month-to-month lease. So we do not assume you're leaving at the end of the lease unless you give us a 30-day notice. So no matter when you're leaving, before the lease ends, after the lease ends, when the lease ends, you need to come into the office, fill out a 30-day notice, and that way we'll have an address to send your securities to, and you'll have instructions on what you need to do when vacating the property. Number 24, termination. Tenant shall return keys, personal property, and premises to the landlord in good, clean, and sanitary condition, and normal wear and tear accepted. So we don't consider you out of the property until you turn in the keys. Now, if you come in and say, hey, Scott, I'm leaving on the last day of the month, and then you bring in the keys on the 2nd or 3rd of the following month, you're going to be charged rent for 2 or 3 extra days. So you don't want to do that. So please make sure you return the keys on the day you say you're leaving. So number 26 talks about maintenance. Tenant agrees to notify the landlord of any water leakage and or damage within 24 hours of the occurrence. Tenant understands that tenant may be held responsible for any water or mold damage, including the cost of remediation of such damage if you're not reporting it on time. Then it says, tenant, minor repairs necessary to the premises up to and including the cost of $100. And so our goal is not for you to pay for your own repairs and maintenance. As you can see down here, the last sentence says, tenant acknowledges any minor repairs made to the property must be done by an active licensed and insured contractor. So if you have any work done, it's highly unlikely that you're going to have a licensed and insured contractor do anything for under $100. But our goal is for you not to call us if you need a light bulb changed, batteries changed, air filter changed, things that are just common sense tenant responsibility. Tenant agrees to pay for all repairs, replacements, and maintenance required by tenant's misconduct or negligent of that of the tenant's family, pets, licensees, and guests. At landlord's option, such charges shall be paid immediately or be regarded as additional rent to be paid no later than the next monthly payment. So if we find damage at the property that was done by the tenant, we're going to get that fixed or immediately and charge you immediately. Make sure you change your air filters, and with your resident benefits package, you'll be having air filters delivered to you every other month. Please make sure that those get changed out. It saves wear and tear on your air conditioning. And if we should find that the air conditioner's filters weren't changed and the dirty filters caused wear and tear on the air conditioner, causing it to break down, you may be responsible for paying for the air conditioner's repairs. Let's see, we'll go to page 7, line 13. Tenants shall maintain lawns, shrubs, trees. Tenants shall water the lawns, shrubs, and trees, mow the lawns on a regular basis, trim the trees, and fertilize lawns, shrubs, and trees. If tenant fails to maintain the landscaping in a satisfactory manner, landlord may have the landscaping maintained by a landscaping contractor and charge the tenant with actual cost. Said cost shall immediately become due. So we've had it just in the past where a tree died, and it was a large tree, and the tenant said that it wasn't their fault because the sprinklers weren't working. Well, here's how this works. Tenant's responsible for letting us know if the sprinklers are working and making sure the tree's getting watered. And so that tenant had to pay for a tree, not just a small tree, just to replace a large tree, and it was over $1,000 to do that. So, and one of the main things that you need to be aware of is weeds, especially in the springtime. We've paid $1,000 on a house to get the weeds removed after a tenant moved out, and that was just charged to the tenant's securities. So make sure that you're on top of the weeds. What I do during weed season, take a cup of coffee outside and start plucking weeds for about 15 minutes every morning during that time. And, I'm plucking them when they're 6 inches tall, not 6 feet tall. Smoke detectors number 27. Tenant will test the smoke detector within 24 hours of occupancy. Tenant will be responsible for testing smoke detectors weekly by pushing the push to test button. Tenant understands that said smoke detectors are battery operated, and it shall be tenant's responsibility to ensure the battery is in operating condition at all times. So if you should find a smoke detector that's not working after replacing the battery, it's your responsibility to let us know so we can get that fixed. Smoke detectors are a very important part of my property management program. Please make sure your smoke detectors work. The undersigned have read the above agreement and understand and agrees to all provisions thereof, and further acknowledge that they have received a copy of said agreement. Access number 28. Tenant agrees to grant landlord the right to enter the premises. So according to Nevada state law, we have to serve you a 24-hour notice. After 24 hours, we can enter the property, whether you grant us access or not. And we can also enter the access, enter the property if there's emergencies. Like if we see water leaking out from underneath your door, we're going to go in. And so we don't ever use the 24-hour notification situation, maybe once a year for tenants that are a real problem. But there's really only 2 times we access your property. Number 1 is our inspection program. And we'll get an inspection after you move in, at 3 months after you move in, and then another one at 9 months after you move in. And what'll happen is our inspector will send you a link to her calendar, and you get to pick the time and the day that you want to have the inspection. And if you schedule an inspection and she shows up and you're not there, you're going to get a $50 charge because she needs to be paid for her time. Also, the maintenance men, they'll call you and set up an appointment, and same if you're not there when the appointment's made, then you'll receive a $50 charge on that as well. So please make sure that you keep your agreements. Let's go down to the bottom of page 8. And these are the items that are located in your property. The girls who do fill this out are very good at their job. However, you want to make sure that once you get your lease back home, that you want to compare what it says on this portion of your lease to what is actually in there. Make sure if there's ceiling fans marked, you have ceiling fans somewhere, and washers and dryers and whatnot. That's very important. Let's go on to page 9. So landlord and or owners are not responsible for any damages caused to tenant's personal property, to include spoilage of food, beverage, or clothing as a result of said appliance breakdown. Meaning, if your washer the washer in the property eats your clothes, we're not buying you new clothes. And if your refrigerator goes out, if you're in your food spoils, we're not replacing your food. So when you move in there, especially, you want to make sure your refrigerator is working before you start putting food in there. Number 31, insurance is required, and it's part of your resident benefits package. So you don't even have to worry about it. Don't have to worry about updating it or anything. That's the awesome part about the program. 32, no illegal drugs on the property. That is immediate eviction. Number 33, if you want to replace window screens, you can do that at your own expense. Let's see what else. Tenant agrees to coordinate transfer utility to landlord or broker's designated property manager no less than 5 business days of vacating the premises. So we request that you leave it on for 5 days in your name, so we can get in there and sweep mop, use the water, electricity, so we can get your securities back to you as soon as possible. Line 5E, locks may be replaced or rekeyed at the tenant's expense, provided tenant informs landlord and provides landlord with a workable key for each new or changed lock. Self-explanatory there. No dangerous materials be stored on the property. That's common sense, but needs to be in the lease. Any changes to this lease needs to be in writing. So if someone's doing an inspection on your property and they say, hey, this room got painted purple, and you tell them, hey, Scott said I could paint it purple, and then they're going to say, okay, well, show it to me in writing. So any changes to this lease needs to be in writing, or it never happened. And we're going to go down to page 11. As we go, 11 and 12 are kind of clarification of legal type stuff, and like 41 says this agreement may be executed in any number of counterparts electronically pursuant to NRS Chapter 719 and by facsimile copies. So you may be signing this lease in person, or you may be signing this lease via DocuSign, or you could be signing it over fax, but we don't really use fax anymore, so that's highly unlikely. Now let's go down to page 12. It's more legal stuff for the most part, except for the 30-day period required by Nevada state law for the return of the securities still applies. The property must be returned in the same general condition as the tenants occupied the property. So it talks about the securities once again. And down here, we have some addendum that we will talk about: pet screening, septic tank, resident benefits package. Let's go look at page 13, and we have some additional terms that are added. And number 1 talks about tenants must park in a garage, especially at the multi-unit properties. And the main reason for that is if we don't want garages to become storage units and attract bugs, roaches, rats, etc. If you need a storage unit, please rent a storage unit. There's several in town, but do not use your garage as a storage unit. Number 2, do not put grease down drains. Only toilet paper in the toilet. Septic tanks should never have anything other than human waste and minimal toilet paper in them. Clogging of drains, garbage disposals, and toilets are almost always billed back to the tenant. Number 3, we talked about, you're not considered out of the property until you return your keys. Number 4, weeds. Can you tell weeds are a major problem, especially on these acre properties? So do not let the weeds get carried away. Make sure you stay on top of them. Number 5, when vacating your property, you are expected to sweep floors, vacuum carpets, wipe down, remove all items and crumbs from all cabinets and counters, and clean all windows. You will be charged for anything other than an average house cleaning and average carpet cleaning. Do not fill nail holes and leave white blotches all over the wall. That will force us to repaint the whole wall and charge you for painting. So we'll send a deep cleaner in there to, do ceiling fans and showers and toilets and, that kind of stuff. So just do your basic cleaning when moving out. 6, we talked about satellites. You're required to remove those. Number 7, no pools of any kind permitted on the property. It's a huge liability for us. Number 8, tenants may not add yard structures, especially like trampolines, swing sets, playground equipment. No storage sheds without a written permission. Number 9, no smoking in the property. There's a $5,000 fine if there's evidence of smoking in the property. All new tenants will receive 3 and 9 month inspections. Their first year of tenancy, we've already talked about that. Number 11, so tenant understands that at times important documents, notices, and or information will be sent to the tenant via email. Tenant agrees to monitor and check their email weekly at minimum for any communications from Freedom House Property Management. So we try to keep these things streamlined so that, we don't have to interrupt you while you're working. A lot of people have the same work hours as we do, and communications are much easier via email or text or something like that. However, if you want to talk to somebody in person or on the phone, we're always here and available. So please come in. We like talking to our tenants and owners in person. So feel free to do that. And number 12, tenant agrees to accept the invitation to Property Meld program to process all maintenance requests. So all our maintenance is done via a website called Property Meld, which you'll get a link to and an invitation to. So chances are, if you're going to call us to report a maintenance issue, we're going to direct you to Property Meld. And Property Meld is an important part of our maintenance program and allows us to keep track and communicate with you. And we'll talk about more about that in a minute. Number 13 and 14 talks about adding or subtracting someone from a lease. Number 15, make sure you keep your contact information current at all times. And just while we're talking about that, sometimes tenants get themselves in a bind where they're not able to pay rent or something, and they think that changing their phone number or not answering their phone or not answering the door, eliminates them from whatever's coming down the pipe, bad stuff. So that's not the case. What that only does is let us know you are working against us and not with us. And you always want to work with us. If there's anything we can do to help out, we will. The next page is the signature page. So you'll sign it, I'll sign it. Then after that, we have an addendum. And this is dealing with the pets once again. So if everyone, whether you have a pet or don't have a pet, should have gone to petscreening.com. Petscreening.com is a very important part of our program. Once again, as I said, pets seem to be the single biggest destroyer of properties. So If you don't have a pet, you're going to go in there and verify you don't have a pet and acknowledge that there's procedures you need to follow if you should get a pet in the future. If you do have a pet, you're going to go on petscreening.com and upload pictures, vaccine records, etc. of your pet. And then if you should have a service animal of any type, you're going to go on to petscreening.com and you're going to upload your documents for that. And the team of attorneys will review that and make sure that everything's in compliance. All right, so that's an addendum that's for the pet screening. Now here's the property meld program, and here's the website, app.propertymeld.com, that you're going to go to. And this flyer basically teaches you how to take a website and turn it into an icon, because Property Meld is not an app, it's a website. But when you report your maintenance issues via this, then you can upload pictures, so we have a better idea on what's going on and who we can send out there to fix the issue. Number one. Number two, in the past, if people have called in and then whoever took the maintenance call, who needed to transfer to the maintenance coordinator, somehow got distracted and never got to the maintenance coordinator, and therefore people are waiting for maintenance to happen, which didn't happen. This eliminates that from happening. Also, for some reason, during inspections, we find out that some of the maintenance guys didn't follow. Like, for example, there's a plumber replaced the toilet, but in the process had to cut out a little hole around the pipes in the wall, and but he doesn't do wall repair, so somehow the communication didn't happen where the wall needed to be repaired. So 2 years later, we're going in to do an inspection, and there's a hole in the wall, and the tenant said, well, but the guy never came back to do the repair. And well, the guy wasn't ever going to come back, and he never let us know that he put a hole in the wall that we had to fix. So this way, whenever anytime there's a maintenance completed at a property, the tenant will be able to rate their experience on a scale 1 to 5. And obviously, if it's a 1, 2, or 3, we're definitely going to follow up and find out what's going on. So anyway, property meld is very important. That's the only way to do your submit your maintenance issues. Now, this is a flyer that kind of goes over the resident benefit package, and it's just got a lot of great benefits. You've got air filters delivered every other month, and it tells you what that would cost if you were doing all this individually. And you got credit building, $25 a month. But we're going to report your on-time payments to the credit bureau. What rental companies does that? Not very often. And we're going to give you $1 million in identity protection. With all these online internet and everything, people are getting their identity stolen all the time, and here we're giving you $1 million worth of protection with this program. Renter's insurance, it's beautiful. You don't have to do anything other than include, it's included with your monthly payment, and you don't have to add it to our website or anything. Then there's an app called Pinata, which you can download, and you get rewards for when you pay your rent on time. And it can be $10 to $25 a month. I know that I received like a bed table tray or something to put my computer on if I'm sitting in the bed watching TV. So there's you're definitely want to take advantage of that. It help you recoup some money. 24/7 maintenance through Property Meld. That's you can do that anytime. And then if your goal is to buy a house, we have a program here that we can help you buy a house. I hope everybody wants to buy a house in the future, and we're more than happy to help you do that. Now, you have access to your online portal. Your online portal, you can see your account, if you're paid up, not paid up. You can make payments online. You can set up automatic payments online. While we're talking about that, you can also bring checks into the office. We have a slot by the front door, so you can do that 24/7. So there's more than one way you can make payments 24 hours a day for rent. Well, we made it to the end of the lease. So now what you need to do is Make sure that you've already reviewed the PDF copy of the lease, which has everything in it. Then you need to get any questions you wrote down during the review of the lease or the video, and you get those answered. And once you get those answers, then you can schedule a signing for your lease and begin your tenancy. Thanks for watching to the end. Have a great day.